Hi, Alexis. It's so good to see you.
Hey Michelle, how are you? It's good to see you too. Happy over the hump day.
I know it's true. It's Thursday. I'm good. And I'm glad to see your smiling face because I haven't seen you. It's been way too long.
It's been too long. Should do like a drive-by and just like wave and
Wave.
be like, "Hey
I know, Jazzy. Jasper misses you for sure.
Jasper." Yeah,
So,
been long.
hmm but soon, at some point, I don't know if soon, we'll be able to like see each other and have
Yeah,
goddess circles and yeah,
yeah, yeah. Fingers are crossed, legs, toes, twisties,
eyes, all the things.
all the things are crossed.
Thanks for saying yes to this conversation about grief and COVID-19. I appreciate you for saying yes, and I would love for you to share about who you are and the work you do in the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me. I was super excited to be able to share some of the things that are just happening on a global level, community level, and personal level. So I appreciate you asking me and thinking about me. So I'm Alexis, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. So I'm a psychotherapist, and I work in a private practice in Winston-Salem, working primarily with women of color and older adults. And what I do mostly is help folks with transition. And so with my women or people of color, but we know a lot of women come to therapy. So people of color that I work with helping them navigate um, the complexities of being in white spaces, of being different in this world. And with my older adult population, I work with the transition of retirement and finding themselves. So when I think about it, it's a lot of grief work. It's a lot of work of finding helping people find their way back to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so that's what I do as a therapist. And I'm also a budding meditation. I guess I can say I'm a budding meditation teacher.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
I do half day silent retreats, and it's something that I believe in a lot, and it's helped me in my growth process, healing process. And so I offer that in our community. And yeah, that's what I do. That's who I am for the most part. In addition to being like part of a family and, having a partner and having friends, that's also part of what I do in the world. But my work, like, paying my bills,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mofo psychotherapist.
I love you. Um, how my next question is um, one, I want to say thank you for what you offer to the world, what you do in the world, and just in our friendship, like how much laughter and joy you bring to people. I know it's not just me. And yeah, and I want to know how your heart's doing. Like we're in a different
Yeah.
time, space right now. And how is your heart?
Yeah, that's a very multi-layered question. So, I mean, I guess so I'm going to answer just with on today, right? So my heart is I'm at the end of a work week. I know we were talking about that previously. I work really hard Monday through Wednesday, and then Thursday I kind of slow it back a little bit, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is just like all about me and all about relaxing. And so it's Thursday, it's the end of my week. My heart is full, and when I say full, it's needing to release, because we're in a different stage and we're talking about different things that I think we go through in life in general. It's different, right? It's really a collective grief and all the things that come with it. And so today it's full and light. I will say that, needing to be nourished. I pulled my nourish card. Yeah, I pulled cards yesterday, and your cards and nourish came up, and I was like, how appropriate. I guess maybe overall with COVID-19, it is just transitioning. Like it's up and down. It's trying to get through the reality of what we're experiencing. It's being grateful. It's trying to be in the present. It's numb. It's just, I don't know. I feel like that's a very multi-layered question. Today, it's full in a very human way because of the work that I do, and it's light. And yeah, I think that's I think that sums it up. I don't know any other way to say that.
The many layers of the heart. Well, because I know you're a therapist and I'm a clinical social worker too, not practicing, doing more intuitive healing work. I cannot imagine how this is affecting your work and your clients and caseload. And so I'd love if you would just share with us I imagine some things are the same, but everything's amplified, I feel like, probably for your clients.
It is, yeah. It's impacted my practice in a way. So I'm going into week 5. I'm finishing up, I should say, week 5. It's Thursday. I'm not going into week 5. Alexis, it's the end of the week, mostly. So I'm finishing up week 5, and I'm feeling like, the train is not moving as fast. But I will tell you, weeks 1 through 3 were hard as I don't know what, because I was changing, the mode of my practice. Like the whole entire thing needed to shift. And between me needing to learn and communicate and do the work, it's been a lot. It has been a lot. And so that part of the practice, right? Because, I do the work and then I have to do the work so that I can do the work. So like all the admin stuff. And so the back part of my business has been really hard, just to get adapted to. And the meat of what I do on a daily basis has been really interesting, and also feeling is, yeah, a good word, and also hard. I don't know any other way to say it, right? Because as therapists, or I should say as therapists, but also probably healers in general, we're having to process and hold space at the same time. And you gotta have your self-care. I mean, that you need to have your game, like it need to be hella strong. You know what I mean? Or woo, are you gonna be feeling it, right? And my self-care game is hella strong, and I still felt it. So yeah, I will say the part of like the inner workings, or the back door of it, and handling all the technical and making sure people knew exactly what to do was really hard. And then, managing how I'm experiencing the health crisis, and then really listening to it every day, has been filling, but also hard. I don't know any other way to say it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Necessarily learn this in school. So, I mean, I guess we learned the nuts and bolts of it. Yeah.
No.
In your head, like, girl, we didn't learn that.
We did not learn how to respond to a pandemic. Let's just be real clear. Okay. Maybe some crisis intervention with groups and individuals. Some of us learned that, but we did not learn how to respond to a pandemic and how to take care of ourselves in the midst of taking care of other people.
At all. Okay, great. I was trying to really make that sound pretty, but we didn't learn that.
Not at all. No, we were not prepared for this.
Yeah. I've learned a lot. I have learned a lot as I've done it. I mean, I was made to do what I'm doing, and so, I'm continuing to do that, and I don't think that I am, recommending, anything extra that I usually do to my patients. It's just a lot of it. It's just constant. So, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned self-care, and one of my questions is about self-care or rituals or practices that you are engaging right now just to respond to the heightened level of crisis, right, given COVID-19. So could you share some about your self-care practice or rituals that you engage in?
Absolutely. self-care has been just a thing. It's just part of my work with my patients. It's just a part of how I take care of myself in order so that I can continue doing the good work that I do. So I try to take my own medicine. So brain spotting, I'm a brain spotting practitioner. It's an intervention, a therapeutic intervention that's based on where you look affects how you feel, and allowing our bodies to be able to release the trauma that we experience on a daily basis, a cyclical basis, or release the trauma that is already there. And so I have had to do brain spotting, increase my sessions with some of my colleagues. We share, we suggest, we train together, and that has just been regal for me. It's just, I need it. And so the things that I'm talking about are not necessarily things that I do. It's not like my basic self-care plan. These are just, okay, this is what I know is sustaining me right now. So definitely brain spotting for myself. For whatever reason, when I get a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I have no problem whiling the day away. That's what I do, right? Especially, about my tent, right? So I bought a tent, and I put it in the front yard, don't care about my neighbors, got in my tent. And, if it's a really beautiful day, it's almost like a sauna, which is nice because you can't go to saunas now, right? So whiling the day away has been very helpful. Connecting to nature, which is part of my whiling the day away. Still practicing social distancing and being respectful of that, but going to the parks that I can go to, or walking in my neighborhood, gardening, getting my hands in the dirt. Connecting with nature has been just critical for me. And the other thing that has been really strange is I've been needing to exfoliate my skin, just because I've been having lots of sensations with my skin, how my body is processing the trauma of all of this. And so nightly baths with, very specific essential oils like frankincense and lavender and clary sage, things like that. I may have to sneeze. It went away. So anyway, it'll probably come back.
Yeah.
Nightly baths and exfoliating when I'm there, because it just allows that layer of fascia and muscles just to be stimulated, and allow the blood to be circulated. It's just been really helpful for releasing whatever I take in. And of course, my daily meditation, listening while it's to music, things like that. Yeah. And there are probably oh Lord, nothing but the H2O. I've had to drink so much water. Have you had to increase your water intake?
It's just the toxins that are
right
now.
Yeah. So my body has been really craving that. And also just with the work that we do, when we're helping and facilitating the process of folks letting things go, we're part of that process too. And so nourishing my body, the card I picked, how about that? Nourishing my body with a lot of liquids. So yeah,
that's a lot of
care plan.
Yeah, a lot of good practices. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sharing them. I always think when we share them and other people hear them, it might give them the idea, right, to practice them.
Yeah.
Or new ideas. So yeah.
It's interesting, the exfoliating thing, it came about because I was just feeling these sensations and getting hot flashes. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 43, but I know, all right now, hot flashes, I rebuke you. So I was having hot flashes and everything. And I received, some of those Christmas gifts that you get, and somebody may pick it up at TJ Maxx or Marshall's, and it goes in the closet to re-gift. So I went to grab one of those, and it had one of those rolly things and something, the back scrubber and things like that. That's come in handy. So whoever got that for me, thank you. not re-gifted. And if I re-gift it at this point, that is really shady because it's already used. So.
Please don't regift that. Don't regift it. Since I know you work with a lot of women of color and people of color, and I feel like there's a narrative that's being perpetuated by dominant culture that everyone is experiencing COVID-19. Well, that's true. But the narrative is that we're experiencing it in the same ways. It's a neutralizer, right? Equalizer, not neutralizer. That's interesting. I said that. It's the great equalizer. And we know that it is not the great equalizer. And it's actually exposing injustices that have always been. And so I'm just wondering about your thoughts about that, like, because what is the truth, right? The truth is not that we're experiencing it in the same way, and we're all in this together.
Yeah, we are not. And the reason we are not experiencing it the same way are multiple reasons. I'll just come like maybe from a neurobiological perspective. You know, we, as people of color in general, we are constantly in fight or flight, right? We're thinking about if we're not code switching, we are, you know, trying to, you know, make a living for our family, or, you know, trying to navigate discrimination or, you know, racism just in general, right? And so we are always usually at a higher level of fight or flight, which means when that's happening, like our body is excreting cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline, you know, all those things are happening at the same time, which also affects, you know, our overall health. And so when the entire world is pulsating and you have a lot of energy that is connected to chaos and so much fear, right? We're really in survival mode. Like we literally, like canola oil is gone and like can't find that. Paper products, you know, we are fighting, like we have this fear of something that may harm us or our family, people that we love and know, something that we can't see, right? So we're vibrating at a higher level of fear, of hyper awareness, hyper vigilance, right? And so that is increased like tenfold. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but you know, let's just go at tenfold. It's increased tenfold for people of color because we're already at a heightened state of awareness because we're navigating a white space. You know, white spaces everywhere we go. And then when you tack on, you know, trust of the government, injustices that, you know, inequities, inequalities with our own experiences, with experiences that we love and know. And not only that, but the collective, when we see it online, you know, we feel that, we, you know, we experience that. And so, you know, I think that also has a lot to do with, you know, our higher rates of contracting the virus because, you know, if we are, you know, constantly in a state of hyper awareness and full of, you know, adrenaline and the hormones, like the stress hormones, then we're operating with a lower immunity. And so it affects people of color a lot more than dominant culture. And I think that that's important to note, you know, not that, you know, people of color are just getting sick, you know, and, you know, if we want to get real, we're talking about Black folks, but we don't want to be exclusive of all, you know, people of color, but, you know, definitely that is the narrative in America. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. Yeah, that's what I would say about that. And our self-care plans need to be so much different. It's, you know, it's so different. So when you tag that on, and then when you tack on, you know, the need for us for social engagement in order for us to feel connected and feel safe and to feel secure, like that is, you know, that is diminished greatly. And so that also decreases how we operate, you know, on a healthy level. So it's important for people to understand that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And you're right. I mean, Black and brown folks are dying from this more, and Black folks dying, like the group that's dying the most from this.
Right.
So I appreciate you naming that and just telling us sharing more about fight or flight and how we're always in that space because of systemic racism and white supremacy.
Right.
And like some white folks are just realizing what fight and flight or freeze might be like
Right.
when it's something, yeah, we live with all of the time.
Right. It's not just happening when you're having to pump your brakes because someone stopped quick at a yellow light, or when you get a phone call in the middle of the night. This is like how people of color operate on a daily basis. It's a little bit accelerated, but this gives you an idea of what it feels like to constantly feel like you're in threat mode, survivor mode. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's important.
It is important for people to know and for us to continue elevating this truth, which is counter to what dominant culture is perpetuating about what's happening. So,
right, that is so true. It's unfortunate to see too, because it just perpetuates racism and white supremacy. It really does.
mm-hmm.
But there is truth in it, so
Mm-hmm.
it starts somewhere.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
right. That's
hopefully
real.
it starts with the awareness of understanding like how our bodies are made, and really coming from a science perspective. Neurobiologically, that's what people of color deal with in a dominant culture. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, I'm wondering if, and I'm asking everyone this question, if there are losses that you have experienced connected to COVID-19 or that you're acutely aware of, which I'm sure you are given your work, but either of those things, because we know some people are losing their people, right? Many people are, or know people who are, or they're just more aware of the losses because of the pandemic and what's going on.
yeah. Fortunately, I don't know anyone personally that has it had, well, I do know people personally who have experienced fatalities. I have not had any in my immediate family. I have had family members and also patients have been, who have been diagnosed with COVID-19. And so I think for me, that sense of awareness, it has shifted my sense of health safety,
Mm-hmm.
probably, health privilege. And, I've really had to pay attention to that. It's important too, because health is, I don't know, one of those things, you have it or you don't, or you've experienced it. You have the privilege, you don't have the privilege. It has a lot to do with fear, right? And so I feel like that has been a loss for me. Like I've experienced, I'm relatively a healthy person, but I've had, some issues in my life that I've had to, grieve over because I've not, been as agile as I want, or, had the flexibility that I needed. This is just completely on a different level, right? Because if I'm not wearing my mask, or like, are you coughing? Are you even looking at me? Like, we can get really like, yeah, like, really in our kind of narrow mind of safety, and box ourselves in. And so I do feel like that sense of loss of that has it's just awareness is there for me. Yeah, I would also say freedom, just a freedom, and uh on so many different levels, regarding the government, regarding access, regarding how I move and navigate in my own practice, which usually gives, entrepreneurs more freedom, um, you know, potentially loss of income. Although, I've been pretty busy, but that's still like, if it's not there, then like what next? Like, we have to really kind of come to terms with that. And I think just on a global level too, it's I know a sense of, I guess maybe losing the sense of day to day really am hesitant to say normalcy,
Mhm.
right? But that's, for lack of better, lack of a better word, that's just what's coming up. So this is sense of transition and change, which happens every day, right? It happens all the time. It's just at a slower pace, and I feel like we can absorb it a little bit better, easier. This has just been really fast, and so um, yeah, I feel like those are some things that I've some, right, because there are a lot.
Mhm.
There is so many things that I'm grieving over, just on a global and collective level, many different layers. But those are the things that are coming to today at this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And are there ways you're allowing yourself to grieve? So I know we talked about practices to
Mhm.
help you move through self-care was kind of the framing for that. And in what ways are you allowing yourself to grieve the losses you just named as this pandemic unfolds moment to moment, right? We're still in the middle of it. And we will be actually for a long time in the midst of this, right? It's going to take a long time to recover and heal.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is connecting with folks and just allowing myself to be able to talk about it, right? And in that, so connection, in that same note, disconnecting, right? Knowing when it is becoming too much, right? Because you can get on a Zoom call or do a Zoom dinner, or a wine party or something like that, and it's really nice in the beginning, and then something in the middle, it turns to COVID-19, and it's like, wait a minute, this is not how I envisioned this. And so knowing when I need to reach out, and also knowing when I need to step back, is one of the ways that I have grieved. I do lots of journaling. I have been burning more incense. Just incense is just kind of a process where I feel like things are just being released, and it just allows me to kind of sit and meditate and just be, like, feel the feels. I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling like angry, I feel really sad, I feel really grateful. So those are some ways. Something else came up, but it flew away. It'll come back.
It will come back.
Yeah, it'll come back. But those are some of the ways that I allow myself to grieve, you know. Yeah.
And I know you understand it's important to make space to grieve because I know you, but I also know you're a therapist, right? And that's part of what you're holding all of the time, right? You're just holding that with people and witnessing people in their grieving process. And so I'm wondering why you feel like it's important um, for us as a collective to make space to grieve in response to what we're experiencing now, with an awareness we're experiencing it in different ways.
Yeah. That's a really good question. And when you ask that question, I think about trauma, and I think about, I think one of the positive things that I can see from COVID-19 is that we are, I don't know if normalizing is the right word, but I feel like maybe normalizing what trauma is, and taking away the like the scariness of trauma. And oh, that's not me. Like, no, we are all being traumatized right now, right? We don't know if we go pump gas, or, like, we're cleaning our groceries. Like, people are cleaning their groceries before they bring it in the house, right? Because if you don't clean your groceries, then you may die. So there's some thought process and cognitive distortions that we can kind of process through that. And I'm gonna use a dialectic there, and it's a reality, right? It totally
Mhm.
is. And so we are being traumatized just on a collective level. And so I would just say that that's probably one of the good things, just the awareness of that. When we are not processing trauma, it becomes embedded, right? And it affects us in different ways, in different situations. And we don't often know why. Like, we hold it in our bodies. And so the body is always trying to do something in order to heal from that. And when we don't have that awareness, it's really hard to do it. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes our body, when we have the right interventions in the right space, our bodies can heal from trauma, and we don't even know what, we just, allow that space to happen, and we don't know what trauma is being healed. Right. On the same note, it is important to know that if you allow your body time to grieve, whether that be crying, whether that be journaling, whether that be just, laying on your bed, whether that be more naps, whether that is, feeling the feels, talking about them, self-advocating for what you need in order for you to have a space, that when we do that and we hold those spaces, that we're allowing that grief to process, yeah. Did I answer that question?
You did. I mean, you're talking about trauma and cultural trauma in a different way, and just the ways we've had to adapt because of what is happening. The example of cleaning groceries or wearing a mask, right? When people are walking around the neighborhood or in the grocery store, wherever we are, that all of that's different. And elicits a different response because we're having to adapt to a crisis, right? It's not like we're adapting because we want to change the way we are, although let's be clear, we're being called into that, but it's not like we didn't choose this.
No, this is not something that we go out and choose. And I think it's important for people to know that, like, you're like the response of cleaning, like, okay, if I don't do this, and the thought process may not be there. The awareness, probably a better word, may not be there. No bones about it. You're cleaning that groceries so you can stay alive, right? And that is survival mode. At like 100.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You're putting that mask on, and this, it's going to be wide and deep. Like when everything is lifted and we start feeling more safe, therapists are going to be busy. And I'm grateful for the work that I do. I'm grateful for the therapists out there. I'm grateful for my therapist, because this is not what the space that we're in now is, not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Also, and there are negative effects to the lack of, when you talk about, the vagus nerve and your nervous system, the lack of social engagement. So yeah, I think, finding ways, or finding a therapist, finding, someone to help you once this is, once we move through this, finding a body worker, finding an intuitive healer, finding a therapist, 2 or 3 of them, if you have the means. There are, organizations that, try to help, if you don't have the financial means to be able to do that. But I definitely recommend people do that. We'll have to figure out, if people don't have the means.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how people can maybe begin to explore that a little bit.
Well, yeah, I think that is part of collective care, which some of us have been talking about for a long time, and more folks are talking about it now in community care. And so while we're thinking about community care now, if I'm going to wear my mask to protect myself, but also others, we also need to think about, once we move through this moment and we're in the aftermath, how do we continue to take care of each other? For example, people who have money and privilege, can they donate to a fund for people to receive mental health services or energy work or whatever healing services, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I know I don't know when we had this conversation, but I do remember it was at a coffee shop, and we were having a conversation similar to this, and the vision I had of, having a foundation around, allowing, based on, reparations, having a foundation where, dominant culture has the opportunity to be able to donate so that people of color can have access to, the healing that they need in community, regardless of what that looks like. So I think you make a good point about continuing collective. Like, what does that look like? Continuing the collective healing process, and holding for others, because we're gonna need it.
Absolutely, we will.
Yeah. I do have my website though. Well, I have my just the website. I don't have anything done, but maybe the heat of COVID-19, because that's what we're feeling, will spark some additional.
It will. It is. Thank you so much for your time today and wisdom, all the wisdom, and your friendship. I love you so much.
Why not
And
you?
yeah, thank you for.
It's been a highlight of my week. So I really
And
appreciate
your week's almost over.
it. Is. It's Thursday. It's
Mm-hmm.
Baby Friday up in here.
Thank you, Alexis.
Absolutely. Kiss Jazzy for me.
I will.
You are your beating heart. Ready, crack open, wide open. So